Hi, friends. We at GLC would like to take a quick moment to thank you for watching our programs on this platform, and we'd like to ask you for a little favor. Would you please go beneath this video and click the subscribe button? Did you know that by simply subscribing to the GLC YouTube channel, you can help us financially support the programs on this platform? You'll need to be signed into YouTube beforehand, but if not, simply click the subscribe button and YouTube will automatically walk you through the steps to sign in or to create an account. By taking these simple steps, you will not only ensure that you continue to receive our unique programming and gain instant access to the hundreds of videos we post, but more importantly, you'll also be telling YouTube that GLC's content is worth watching and promoting. Likewise, if you enjoyed a specific program, please click the thumbs up button below, which also helps inform YouTube that this is a program worth recommending. Finally, once you have logged in and subscribed, please click the notification bell below in order to receive announcements when we post new content. As usual, feel free to post your questions and comments in the comments section below. We always love hearing from our friends and viewers. Again, thank you for watching and supporting God's Learning Channel. We couldn't spread the message of the gospel without you. Be blessed, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hey, folks, welcome to Word on the Street. This is a Woman Warrior series with Annette Clemdenen. A lot of you in West Texas know her in other parts of the country. She's a woman warrior, a Navy veteran, one of our nation's finest. She's a chaplain, one of the fastest growing veteran communities in Texas, San Angelo, a prophetic voice, an intercessor, a lot to this woman, but you know what? She's a kingdom operative, and I'm proud to call her a friend as of 18 years, I believe. And so with no further ado, how you doing, Sister Annette?
Amen. Good morning, my brother.
You were there in West Texas and all that cold weather right now, you know, that's got to be something.
I'm telling you, it is hot, and I mean hot here, extremely hot.
But it's a dry heat. It's a dry heat, right?
It is, but they're even saying though is that this is probably one of the hottest summers on record now.
We are seeing prophecy fulfilled. Annette, you've been a prophetic voice in the last bastion of American freedom, West Texas, there and beyond. And you know, we actually did some meetings together. I remember leading worship for a couple of your meetings right there
Awesome
in Odessa,
awesome.
Texas. Yeah.
That's as a matter of fact, I have to say that we did that at Parker Heights in Odessa.
Yeah.
And you were gracious enough to come and do worship with me when we were doing those meetings. And I clearly remember one night in particular, this is where the Lord really taught me something about being obedient and what the blessings of obedience. And I remember I had a sermon all ready to go, already picked out. I had prayed about it and everything and thought, okay. And then I get there, you're on your keyboards, I'm on my drum. And
he's a drummer, folks, a good one.
Yeah,
you're a drummer.
It was amazing. But I had a little podium up there. I was ready to get up and preach, you know. And what happened was the glory of the Lord just came down and absolutely filled the room. And actually back then there was sheets over some of the musical equipment in the back of the room. And the glory of the Lord was so strong that night that people began to take the sheets off and cover themselves. And we're just, healing and deliverance was going on. Wow. I remember I got up and said, I was going to okay, I'm going to preach now. You know, we got a word. And it's like the Holy Spirit was like, no, you're not, you know. And it's like, you know, I was like, oh my gosh. So I remember it was so smoky in there with the glory cloud that I actually thought something might be on fire. And I remember asking somebody in the back, would you please go open up the doors? I said, we need to let some of this smoke out. Okay. And I just so clearly remember that. And it was such a humble presence that night, to be in the presence of the Lord that strong. But I remember I kept looking up at you like, Brant, and you just kept playing. and I was on my hands and knees. I mean, the Lord brought me to my knees that night, and he reminded me, he said, "You're not in control, I am." And I learned something tremendous that night, and it's been that way ever since. It's
Wow.
anytime I hear the Lord like that, listen, definitely listen.
Well,
Yeah.
Annette, when I go into to worship, I can't tell you half of what happens. I remember that night though, and a very special night. Jesus said that whoever much is.
There's nothing
Yeah.
like being in the presence of the Lord.
Oh, I know. And people sometimes wonder, why certain worship leaders or whatever are very passionate. Hey, who's been forgiven much loves much. And but what stood out to me besides the presence there, and it was very real. And of course you allowed it to be, a lot of ministry leaders, they don't. And I was impressed by that. And of course the atmosphere, I remember that, but also you are a hands-on, minister. You love people, you lay hands on them, you pray for them sincerely. And there's no showboating with you, Annette. There's no, it's very, very real. And of course, I didn't even know all of your background at that time. You've been used by the Lord very powerfully through the years. Those who are watching this on Primetime Christian Broadcasting and other platforms, the people in the GLC circles know who you are. Tommy knows who you are. We love Tommy so much. And
I just spoke with her yesterday, as a matter of fact. Joe.
She loves you, and we love her. And of course, I love you. And those in your circle, they know that you love the Lord. You're the real deal. I mean, even boots on the ground street ministry, shooting with Jamie Berryhill, the show Mission Messiah Television, MMTV. You had yet another thing going there, another outreach, and you love people. You love our veterans.
Yes.
They deserve honor. They deserve love. And you are a veteran. But that wasn't the first time you've been in the war circles. When you were a young girl, you witnessed firsthand what was unfolding when Israel was gaining its independence during the miraculous 6-day war. You want to touch on any of that?
Certainly, yeah. I was young. My father was he was a preacher.
Wow.
I'm a PK. He was a preacher, but he was also a welder, contracted by the American government over into the Trucial Coast, or around Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. Mm-hmm. And we had to live in Beirut at the time while he worked over there. And so we moved to Beirut in 1966, November of 1966. And I went to a private American school there. In June of 1967, that night, June 6th, I was at a function at a very, very well-known resort hotel called the St. George there in Beirut. And we had a chauffeur back then, and he came in to the building, and I was surprised. I was like, what's he doing here? And he came in and he said, "You need to come with me. You need to go home." And I said, "Why? It's not time to leave yet." I mean, mind you, I'm all of like 11 years old.
Wow.
And my brother was actually in the band that was performing. He was the drummer for the band there.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother's also a drummer. And so anyway, he said, it's bad is happening. And I'm like, well, what? And so we went out on the front there, and I could see there was just the explosions in the air. And he was like bombing. And I'm like, oh. So anyway, what happened is I went up and told my brother, I said, we got to go home. I said, we got to get out of here. And so anyway, I got in the car with James, with the chauffeur, and started. We lived in a little village called Brumana. It's 14 miles north of Beirut.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And so as we were going up back to the house, he told me to get on the floorboard, stay on the floorboard, because there was gunfire everywhere. They were bombing. Israel was bombing the harbor. Bombing all the entries and everything like that, in and out of Beirut. If anybody knows anything about Beirut, Beirut is a well-known harbor, very, very, very prominent harbor.
Wow.
And so they were bombing the airport, the harbor, and everything. And anyway, I just remember distinctly staying on the floorboard with my head covered, like he told me to, all the way up to the house, back into the village. And when we got up there, the windows, my mom had already blackened all the windows. We couldn't have any lights, anything, nothing,
Wow.
any source of light at all. And so Mom said, we're leaving. We have to get out of here. And we were told that we could only take one suitcase. And that was it. We literally had to leave everything behind, everything. And so my brother was there, of course, with us. But we grabbed the one suitcase and we left the villa that night. And they were gathering, the American embassy was gathering all the Americans at the University of Beirut, which is AUB, in downtown Beirut. And so, now mind you, my father was not with us. My father was over in Saudi Arabia, okay? And so my mother, my brother, and I went back down into Beirut to the university where they were, gathering all the Americans together that they could. And so what they were doing is they were putting mattresses on the floor for us. And I'll never forget that, because it was, we were told to lay on the mattresses with our heads covered. And you could hear the bombs. I mean, the bombs were just exploding everywhere. You could see all the, the explosions and everything. You could hear gunfire.
Wow.
So as it turns out, we were there. I mean, they were getting American military out first. Okay. My mom and I and my brother were part of the last 10 Americans that actually got to leave Beirut the next morning on the 7th. Okay. And what they did is they had school buses transporting us with armed guards. We had to get on the floorboard of the bus, and then they had guards standing over us with machine guns, guarding us all the way to the airport. Well, the airport had been bombed. But anyway, we got evacuated. We were evacuated safely to Athens, Greece. We stayed in Athens for a few weeks, and then my father had no idea where we were. He had no clue. And then, so my mom didn't like Athens. she was afraid, brave, but very afraid at the same time. And so the American embassy sent us to Famagusta, Cyprus, and that's where we stayed for a while. We actually, that's where my father finally found us. We stayed in Famagusta for, it was quite a while. Awesome little place that is. Anyway, we got transferred back to Beirut when they finally started letting everybody back in again. We had been in Beirut for not that long before my father got transferred over to Alexandria, Egypt. So I went from Beirut over to Egypt, over to Alexandria, and spent the rest of several years there in Alexandria and Cairo. And, finally we came back here to the States in the 70s. So that was really something. I could never understand, being that young, I could not understand the hatred between Jews and Arabs. I didn't comprehend that.
Right.
But I grew up with Muslims. I grew up with Jews. I grew up with Christians. I grew up with so many different cultures, and I couldn't understand the hatred. And of course, at that point in time, I hadn't read the Bible per se, being that young.
Right.
So it was, it kind of all over the years, living in the Middle East, growing up on the streets of Beirut and growing up on the streets of Alexandria, it taught me a lot. I wouldn't take anything for any of that. I wouldn't trade it. It was all very instrumental in my life's journey. It taught me a lot, but the most that it did was brought me closer to the Lord in so many different ways. It taught me humility, just so much. So, but that war, that was something. As a matter of fact, the villa that we lived in Brumana, it no longer exists. It was bombed. They took it out. So yeah. But the family that lived there with us, I remained friends with for many, many years. Lebanese, a beautiful, beautiful Christian Lebanese family.
Wow.
We remained friends with for, gosh, even till today. So, and I'm still friends with a lot of people that I went to school with over in Beirut. I'm still very good friends with a lot of people that I went to school with over in Egypt. We're still friends all these years later.
Yeah, I've heard it said that Beirut was like the Paris of the Middle East before
Yes.
Islamists took it over. And,
absolutely.
What's it like? I can't imagine what it's like to live there now. Is it what people envision from the 80s, still a terrorist war zone, or are things, what's the real case over there right now?
Some of the people that I went to school with in Egypt and Alexandria are now school teachers at the and professors at the University of Beirut, at AUB.
Wow. So they stayed there.
Pardon me?
They stayed there.
Yes, they did. As a matter of fact, I've and friends that I've got that are still in Egypt. Actually, a couple of guys. I know one guy. His name is Barry Iverson. Barry is an incredible photographer. He used to work for Time Magazine, and Barry has his own art gallery now over in Cairo. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, so there's still people there. They stay. They get it. As a matter of fact, we have a reunion every few years of all of us kids per se. We all get together every few years, and it's really not. I mean, it's safe. I mean, it's okay. It is.
As you stepped into the role of intercessor and speaking into people's lives and operating in the prophetic, when did that start?
That's just funny that you asked that. Because my father was a Church of Christ preacher. Okay. Precious parents. I was very blessed to have the parents I did. And I remember as a little girl, I don't know. I remember as a little girl that I used to know things, and I didn't know how I knew. And my mom would say, "How come you know that?" And I would be like, "I don't know." But I grew up that way, and I grew up with an end time mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, a total end time mindset. I didn't understand that it was prophetic at the time. I had no idea.
Right.
And it wasn't until I started getting older that, and of course, reading the Bible and everything, that there was something to this. And when I began to really seek the Lord on what was going on with that, by this time my mom had already passed away. And my father had actually passed away. And so I went to people in the church, and people were saying, "You've got a prophetic gift." And I'm just like, "Oh, I don't know what if you really call it that." And the thing about it is the Lord would give me word of knowledge on certain people. And I took it very seriously because it was from the Lord. I still take it very seriously. So that, I don't know, Brant, I would have to say that, I guess started when I was little. I mean, evidently from the womb, but it took me a while to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I still take it very seriously. I do.
I can relate to that end time mindset. I've had it since I was a boy. I've operated in some things that you won't see on my business card, but I get that. What would you say to believers right now in America and around the world in light of a lot of people saying, hey, this Bible thing looks like it is true. It is coming to pass just like it said. How would you encourage them in this hour?
Wow, that's a
It's a big one,
that's a
isn't
deep
it?
one and a big one. Okay, that's a deep one and a big one.
Uh-huh.
You know, I'm going to say this, and it may step on people's toes, and I'm sorry, but I just have to speak the truth.
Well, you're a kingdom operative. You're a woman warrior. You're an intercessor. You're a prophetic voice. What would you say?
What we're seeing everywhere, not just here in America,
right?
But what we're seeing is the word of God coming to pass every single day.
Right.
I pray that people will wake up, and especially in the church, okay? Because a lot of people think that, and I say this, and people are going to get mad, but I'm sorry, I'm going to tell the truth, is that they think that, you know, America's going to be great again. The only way America will be ever great again is if we let God back into our nation. We've literally kicked him out. And it's heartbreaking to me. I can't tell you how much I've even cried over this. It's something that it just tears my heart to pieces, because America is in a very bad way. Okay. And it's sad. I'm going to tell you, back in 2013, I had a vision, an open vision, and I've watched this vision come to pass every single week, every single month, every single year since then. I was in Odessa at the time, actually, and it was when Obama was nominated as president. And I was,
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah. I
I
investigated him and his Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah.
I was on the floor. I was on the floor, praying. I had my face in the carpet, was just praying and praying and praying. And all of a sudden I went into an open vision, scared the daylights out of me. I mean, it scared me so bad I was screaming. Okay. But this vision was, I saw the Statue of Liberty, and she was half submerged in the ocean. And in one hand was the Bible, and the other hand was a torch, but she was sinking. Okay. And it just totally petrified me, because the Lord said to me, he said, America, as you've always known it, will never be again. Never. America, as you've always known it, will never be again. Okay. He said, you've entered into a new era. And I'm going to tell you what happened. I came up on my knees, and I began to I was screaming at God. I was screaming at him, no, Lord, no, and it was just, I was bawling. I was bawling my eyes out, going, no, Father, no. And he repeated himself. He said, America, as you've always known it, will never be again. That's true. I was so shook up by that. But the thing about it is I got up, because I was so upset. I got up and I got on my bed, and I was laying there with my hands folded across my stomach. And all of a sudden it's like my bed went whoop, like it just flipped. Right. And I was like, whoa, 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 what was that? And the Father said, you've just entered into a new era. I tell you again, my daughter, that America will never be the same again. Right. And I've watched, since that point in time, I've watched everything go down and happen exactly as he said it would. So
Yeah.
I
have
mean,
no
I'm
idea.
sorry. And that doesn't mean that we lose our joy. We
No.
don't need to be in fear. We don't need to be in fear. No.
But
Um,
the word is true. The word is true, and it's coming to pass. And
it is. Yes.
people have no clue. It's sometimes a burden to see what's ahead,
Yeah.
but you are right. There were prophets. They called them prophets for Trump. Oh, he'll be back folks. In the Old Testament, there wasn't I was off, I was wrong. They killed you if you gave a false prophecy. And I've never been impressed by certain names that talked about Trump.
Well, that makes two of us. I'm the same way. I'm very careful. I'm very careful about who I listen to, what I watch,
right?
Everything. I'm very, very, very careful. You try to guard the eye gate, guard the ear gate,
Right.
and it is when I say this because again, people need to know that when you take your eyes off Israel, when you take your eyes away from Yeshua, from Jesus,
Mhm.
and I've seen this happen, and I see it happen every day, that it's very disturbing to me to see what is going on inside the Western church, the American church. Let me just back up here. When I lived overseas, I had to attend underground churches because I'm a Christian, right? Okay. And the Lord told me back then, I mean, my mom and I, what we would have to do is we would have to walk away from our apartment, okay, and go meet a driver, and the driver would take us to an undisclosed location to go to church over there, okay? That's the way I grew up. So I understand these kind of things, and I see kind of like what's going on in the spirit realm, all right, with America, if you will, and the Western church. There's just so much there. There's so much there that it is. And when the Lord says to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, you better believe I do. Okay.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And Annette, I have friends in Cairo, and if you ask anyone on the street in Cairo, they'll tell you there was a lot of weeping in Cairo when the Islamists were rejoicing that Obama, the Muslim, was now the president. And people over here are so gullible.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, but sheep are sheep and lions are lions. And
yes, amen.
But I could maybe get her to do a Zoom with me now. But she gave eyewitness that there was rejoicing by the radicals and there were weeping by the oppressed, that they were all saying, there's a Muslim in the White House now. And people over here, I'm sorry, they're just as dumb as they can be. If they don't see with clear eyes, or if they don't see with spiritual eyes. I talked to a multimillionaire this morning. He can't even get a church in his town to open its doors and even receive a lot of money a month just to reach the children in the area. Folks, where are you? Where's your mind? This isn't business as usual, and this isn't America as usual. We are to be warriors in this hour. Annette, I just commend you for being a woman warrior, a kingdom operative, a voice. We have a lot more to talk about in future shows, Annette. And I want to hear what the Lord's telling you as well. So thank you so much for joining me on this first of several shows, Women Warriors and series, and with Annette. I want you to speak Arabic next time, if you would, and say a prayer. But I love you. I believe in you and have known you for a while now. And you're a good apple. You're one of the real ones. And so, folks, you'll want to hear what Annette is hearing in her spirit as she is plugged into the source. We love you. Can't wait to talk to you next time, sister.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you.